Welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing women's unique challenges in the tech industry. I'm your host, Limor Bergman-Gross, and today I have a privilege of speaking with Oge Opara-Nadi. Oge is the head of developer experience and operational excellence at a fintech company in the UK. Oge is paving the way for the next generation of women and underrepresented groups in tech. Her journey is a powerful reminder that our paths are rarely linear. What started as a twist of fate, accidentally enrolling in computer science instead of pre-med, turned into a highly fulfilling career in tech. But Oge's story also shines a light on the systematic barriers and biases women, especially women of color, continue to face in the tech industry. From having her ideas overlooked to being the only in many rooms, Oge gets candid about navigating these challenges. More importantly, you'll hear how she transformed from feeling naive early on to embodying an empowering belief that she belongs and can be the change she wants to see. Get ready for an insightful and motivating conversation packed with hard-won wisdom. So let's dive in. Hi, Oge. Welcome. It's such a pleasure having you here today.
Hello, Lima. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm pretty good. No complaints. And you?
Oh, it's really nice today in London, which is where I'm based. So we've had a bit of a rainy spring, but the sun started to come out. So that's definitely doing something for uplifting the mood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know me and Oge knows for quite some time, we worked together and we became friends. And I'm going to visit Oge in London pretty soon. So I'm super excited to actually meet you in person.
Oh, looking forward to it. We have so many things to talk about.
For sure. And let's dive in. Okay. So let's maybe start, Oge, if you want to start sharing our audience with how you got into tech in the first place.
Okay, well, I'll do a little bit of an introduction. So, hello, listeners. I am Oge Opara-Nadi. I'm an engineering leader today at a fintech in the UK. I have been in tech for roughly 23 to 25 years after my degree in computer science. So obviously Nimra and I spoke earlier, so there's a little bit of a twist to this, which is how I actually got into that course. Um, all my life, I had believed I was going to be a medical doctor. It was something that I believed from a very young age. And whilst I was going through high school and picking universities and courses, it was all going to be based on that. So picture this. I was at University of Greenwich in the UK. I was going to do my first year in human physiology. Excited, moved out of home for the first time, get to uni, get to the induction. And I'm sitting in this room and it's all very fascinating. They were talking about mathematics and, one of my strong subjects. I was feeling very pumped. Then as the time progressed, I thought, this is going in a direction that isn't familiar to me. And it turns out I had walked into the induction for computer systems architecture. So, pause. My mind was blown. They were talking all of these things about computer systems. I was barely computer literate, but I sat there so intrigued and fascinated. And there and then, I made the decision to change my course, and I ended up studying computer science.
And how fortunate we are for that coincidence.
Thank you. It has been such a fulfilling career, doing what I enjoy. Who knows what type of doctor I would have been, but this is definitely where I landed, and I've loved it so far.
That's a wonderful story. To be honest, I heard some similar stories from other guests. I have several guests that told a similar story how coincidentally they kind of found themselves in computer science. And this is wonderful. Life is not always expected.
Exactly. And, you're very right. I know so many people who also accidentally got into tech, where they've even gone to universities and done different degrees or followed a different career path, but somehow they've gravitated towards tech and they've found love in tech.
Definitely. And I remember when we talked earlier, you mentioned that feeling naive when you first entered the industry. Can you expand on that and share your experience?
Of course. So I graduated with first class in computer science. And up until that point in my life, I had always been the best based on the effort that I put in. So academically, all of that. And I went into the industry with that mindset that if I do my best, then I will be recognized as the best. So I went into the industry, I threw myself into my job. I was the best software developer on the team, but somehow that wasn't reflecting in opportunities I was getting in career progression. So that first bit of being naive was believing that it will be meritocracy. What I mean by that was believing that you advanced your career solely based on how good you are at what you do. Now, the second thing as well was when I got to that point, I internalized it and I began to think this must mean I am not good enough. So I need to improve myself. I need to, learn more. I need to, do as much more work as I can. And that led to doing long hours, doing overtime, taking on all sorts of roles and work that were not necessarily my role. Now, I did learn a lot from that, and I probably wouldn't change that if I could turn back time, but that also wasn't enough. And the reason it wasn't enough was because I was naive to the fact that there was a system that worked against me, and that it wasn't just about changing myself or improving myself, but that I was playing this game that I actually didn't know the rules to. Then a bit of revelation came after that. That forced me to take a step back and look around me. And I looked around me and saw other women of color, white women as well, who were exceptional in what they were doing, but were also not progressing. And this is when I began to talk with these people, network, coach, mentor. And what I found out was, as we all know, there is great disparity in tech. And that as women, especially women of color, there is a lot more that we have to do, both within ourselves and outside within our environment, to be able to succeed in tech.
What you said, I mean, unfortunately, I hear it again and again and again. I hear it so many times. I actually, just this week, I wrote an article about it. It's going to be posted soon. And so many women, unfortunately, I mean, and me included, right? We think that if we do a good enough job, we don't have to, advocate for ourselves, and everyone will notice and reward us for that. But it's not the case.
It's not the case at all. And I am looking forward to the article later this week.
Yeah, it will be published in 2 days. Obviously, when the episode is going to be out, it's going to be published already. And I wanted to ask you something. You mentioned the system was against you. Can you elaborate what you meant by that?
So there is a lot of unconscious bias, not just in tech, in society as well. So we also, as women, grew up in a society where the things that make our male counterparts successful are the same things that we are penalized for. And what I mean by that is using myself as an example. When you're in a meeting and there are different people in the meeting, and permit me to generalize a bit. And a man comes in all confident and he says his opinion or voices it. We all pay attention, we listen, it all makes sense. As a woman, when I came with that same energy, I was perceived as aggressive as a Black woman. I was perceived as people don't want to hear what you have to say because of the way you're saying it, even though the content of what I was saying was exactly the same. Now, there are also so many scenarios in the workplace where formally or informally, groups form. The lads go out to drinks after work, or, the executives go off and play golf, or people can put in a lot more extra effort, like maybe contributing to open source in their spare time. When you flip that around for women, it's not always the opportunities that things that we can take on. Many women are also care providers in their families. They cannot afford to spend that time, contributing as much as their male counterpart in open source. But yet we evaluate how good somebody is by saying, can we see your GitHub repos, for example, right? Also, all of those social gatherings that don't typically include the whole group. So say you're not somebody who drinks, or you don't like crowded places, you're not likely to head out for drinks after work with the rest of the gang. And what tends to happen is that work does follow on there, because in those social circles, people are building relationships. People are starting to understand how they can help and support each other. Opportunities are being discussed. But if you're not in that room at that time, you're not open to that. You're not aware of that. And you don't know what needs to happen for you to be able to be on the same level footing as your peers. So this is one example about the system. But if you also look at data, right? Data tells you, I think in the UK, we're currently trending at about 24 to 26% of women compared to men in tech. So what does that mean? That means that for most women in your team, you're probably going to be the only woman on your team. And that means that sometimes as a woman of color, you're the only woman and the only person of color on the team in the meeting, right? And I talk a bit about intersectionality when I speak publicly, because there are these different layers that affect us. Now, when you're different, even if people don't intend to other you, just by being the only one, you feel othered. And in my case, in my early career, what that meant was I was constantly being careful about what I said. I was having my opinions not heard. I was having my ideas co-opted, just because I couldn't find allyship within, the groups I was participating in.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And this is very unfortunate, and it still happens today. I mean, I hear so many stories. What can women do about it?
Well, there are a few things, right? I always believe in starting from within. So what have I done? It's very obvious to me when I walk in the room, without thinking about it. Subconsciously, I notice, am I the only woman? Am I the only Black person? Am I the only gay person? It's so conditioned that it just happens as an automatic thought. And there's no point looking at the differences, but look for the similarities. So what I do today is I come in a room and I see, who are the people that have a similar vision to me? Who are the people whose values align with my values? Who are the people who, yes, we may not agree with each other, but we can have a healthy conflict to be able to challenge ourselves to do better. And by taking that perspective, it allows me to find more reason to connect, rather than, in quotes, feel like the victim in the room. And that makes me appreciate the other people and try to engage them more. Now, that doesn't always work, right? It works some of the times. But the second thing is, by doing that, in my mind, I feel more empowered, because if somebody is cutting me off, I appreciate that maybe they're excited as I am about this, but I also call it out, because I'm excited too, and I want to share my ideas too. If somebody take something I've said that the room hasn't heard what I've said, and somebody else repeats it and owns it as their own. I support it, but I also call out that, hey, folks, I said that 3 minutes ago. And if I may expand on that, this is what else I have to say in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is going to be an effort. There is an emotional burden and a mental burden that comes with that. And I'm not going to pretend that by, adopting these strategies, that goes away. So by adopting these strategies, it doesn't make the problem go away completely, but it makes it visible. And there will be allyship. Rarely has there been a situation where I've called out something like that and people have gone, oh no, that didn't happen. People just didn't realize at the time. So that's one thing women can do. The second thing as well is also find who your allies are outside of the meeting. And this is not just about being the only woman in the room or being the only black person in the room. This is about if you want to push an idea forward, you don't have to go it alone. Find people to test your idea with. Find people who, will be in that meeting that also share a similar idea or a similar opinion or even a different opinion, but people who can allow you bring that conversation to light. Because ultimately, when we meet, we're trying to ideate, we're trying to innovate, we're trying to create. So finding people that are already on the same wavelength means that a lot of the work is done before the meeting, and the meeting can be about sharing and deciding if that's what the outcome of the meeting is. Now, the other thing I would say is, as a woman, for now, where we are in tech, you will expect that you will be in the minority, but you should be firm in the belief that you belong. It doesn't matter that you're the only one in there, you belong, and others like you belong. So today, you might be the only woman on the team, but it doesn't mean that your ideas have to be the ideas that are unheard on the team.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom. And as you said, I mean, this is work and this is not easy. I mean, there is an emotional toll. And also, I can very much relate to allyship and also finding sponsors because this is super, super critical. Being the only woman, and as you mentioned, the only woman of color is hard. And my best allies and sponsors were white men. So they don't have to look like you. You don't have to look for, oh, let me find another woman or another woman of color that will support me. But actually, the white men, the right one, right? I mean, the ones that
Yes,
really care can be your best supporters.
yes, that is very true.
Wow. This is incredible. And I wanted to talk about discovering your purpose. So, you talked about the importance of discovering your purpose
Mhm.
and how that has driven your ambition. So, can you share more about that journey of self discovery?
Indeed. So, earlier I said I was naive and I improved through that. And part of that growth was when I stopped focusing solely on myself and started also focusing outward. I realized what I'm living and what I've experienced is what people are also living and experiencing now. And I don't believe that you have to make every single mistake that the people in ahead of you made to be successful. I don't believe that if it was very painful for me, it must be very painful for every woman or every black person or every gay person. No. So my purpose, I didn't discover it one day. It was a gradual process. And the first part of it was, how can I support and advocate so that other people don't have to experience the things I have already experienced? And when I became a parent, so I have four children, triplets who are 10 years old, and a younger boy. And in my triplets, I have two girls. And when I started to look at the world through their perspective, I started to think, is this the type of society, industry that I want my daughters to come into? Right? What would it be like if they followed in my footsteps and did something in tech? What type of tech are they coming into? What's the industry like? Will they be welcomed? Will they be accepted? Will they be able to reach their potential? Will they be able to make an impact? And somewhere between starting to look more outward and becoming a parent, I realized there are so many things I didn't have, but there is so much I can give. So, for example, I didn't see people who looked like me in executive roles. So I didn't aspire to executive roles. But when I found my purpose, I realized just because I didn't see people who looked like me doesn't mean I cannot become that today. Because representation matters. Even though I didn't have it, I can be it. And that crystallized to the idea, which is my mantra today: be the change that you want to see. And I know from when we were talking earlier, anymore, you said, but how do people find their purpose? And what is this purpose? And it's not always something massive. It's not always something huge. Finding your purpose can be as simple as discovering what are the things that are important to you, that are important to your team, or important to your organization. And if there are gaps, how can you fill those gaps? And purpose is not always static. Purpose can be fluid. So what's important to you today will change over time. And definitely for me, it has changed over time. So for me, my purpose today is to be able to create organizations where people that look like me and everybody can be successful, can reach their maximum potential while still delivering value in the business to our clients or our customers.
Amen to that. Yes, we need to see more incredible leaders like you for sure. And this is like one of my purpose, right? And I really relate to what you said about your purpose can change. It's not static. And sometimes, you need to experience things in order to find it. So be
Yes,
open minded. Be open minded
exactly.
to explore.
Sometimes it doesn't come in the way that you envision it, right? So through networking, for example, you meet people who also share their purpose and you find that there is an area of commonality and that can help you crystallize yours, right? Or you talk to people and you understand that there are things that are maybe of more importance today than that purpose you have in 5 years' time. So you adapt to what it is today and you focus on that, knowing over time that will change and you can direct your energy based on how it changes.
Absolutely. I mean, I very much relate to that, and my purpose changes. I mean, it changed over time, and I'm so privileged to be working on my passion. Uh, and who knows what will happen in 10 years? I'm open to change. I'm always open to opportunities and to change. And
Yes.
I want to transition about kind of related to being proactive versus reactive. And you mentioned shifting from reactive to more proactive mindset. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that transition and what it has meant to you?
Okay. So I always like to tell a story to paint a picture around my ideas. Um, Many years ago, I was in a role. This was back when I was trying to be the best at my role, and I did become the best. And I kept waiting for that promotion to come, and it never did. And when I sought feedback, feedback was, we didn't realize that you wanted something else. You're so good at what you do. You're very passionate about what you do. So we thought that you'd found your niche. So that was me being reactive. I was doing my work, but waiting for things to happen to me, so to speak. Now, being proactive would have been whilst I'm making my work visible, also making my aspirations visible. Seeking out what are the steps that I need to take to achieve my goals. Asking for help, asking for support, keeping my mind on my purpose, and working, based on that, as opposed to just doing my day job I'm expecting some sort of miracle to happen one day. So that's one way, to describe this concept about being more proactive. Now, to touch on what I just said, when I was doing this role and I was really good at it, what I also didn't realize was that I had boxed myself in. I had boxed myself in the sense that this was now what I became known for. And even though I was good at it, it wasn't what I wanted, but nobody knew that. It was also the fact that I'd made myself the single point of failure in that aspect of the team, which meant I felt I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to do this. Now, if I had been proactive then, what might I have done differently? I would have ensured that those skills were being transferred to other team members. I'd have ensured that I wasn't the single point of failure, that other people could do those things as well. I would also have stretched myself because I'd gotten to a place where I was comfortable. So I'd have stretched myself and tried to play beyond my range in my keyboard. And I have a friend who uses this a lot, and helped me realize that concept of spreading yourself, growing, not staying confined to the things that you're comfortable with, but exploring more, getting more skills. When I started doing that, intentionally doing that, I got different opportunities because perhaps I had collaborated with somebody in a different department. Now they knew this is something that I can do for them. This is something they can do for me. So when other opportunities for new projects came up, my name was in the hat for people who could run that project because the stakeholders had seen, that I could do beyond what I was doing. And this is also how growth and promotion started coming. Many times people talk about promotion, they say you should be doing the next role whilst you're doing your current one. I'm 50-50 on that. But I like to rephrase that as you should be showing the skills that you have that are beyond the confines of your job today. Because then you're showing breadth of expertise and you can get promoted based on that.
Yes, I can relate to that. I mean, I do believe that in order to get to the next role, you need to prove that you're capable. And by proving you're capable, you have to show that you're able to do above what you do today. So there's a little bit of stretch, I think, that is needed. But as you said, like we cannot overwork ourselves, and so we have to find some balance. And
Yeah.
I very much relate to what you mentioned about yes, if you don't say what you want and you not start proactively getting there, then someone else will make the decision for you and make assumptions based on what you do, which
Mhm.
may not be necessarily what you want. That happened to me as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly.
So those are great tips. Um, Looking kind of back on your journey so far, what's one piece of advice you would give other women in tech, especially women of color, that are trying to navigate their careers?
Um, Tech can be hard as a woman of color. Your experiences are likely going to be different from the experiences of most of the people that you interact with. It's very easy to focus on how can I be different, or how can I improve, or how can I be more like somebody else. So the first thing that I would say is you don't have to be somebody else. You are unique and you are special just the way you are. And that is what the world needs. Not another version of Oge, not another version of Limo, but you as you are. The second piece of advice is you need to believe in yourself. You can't wait for other people to believe in you, because if you don't believe in yourself, that shows you will always second guess yourself. You will always be limited by, negative self-talk. So you need to believe in yourself. So that's number 2. Number 3, you need to find your tribe. You need to find the people who will support you, who will champion you, who will also challenge and criticize when required, but ultimately the people who genuinely want your best interest. And that group doesn't have to be the same group for every aspect of your life or every aspect of your career. But you really need that, because when you're always the only one in the room, when you're the only one whose ideas are not being heard, when you're the only one who receives, above and beyond more criticism than your peers, it can weigh you down. So you also need people that counter that, people that remind you of your value, people that remind you of your ambition, people that remind you of what you're capable of. And people that will tell you straight, you're being a victim, or you're wallowing, or you're getting distracted from your purpose, or you're letting this take over your dream. So first and foremost is, in no particular order, find your tribe, find your people, your cheerleaders, find yourself. Don't try to be somebody else, be you. And thirdly, believe in you. Because when you believe in yourself, then you're better placed to advocate for yourself. You're better placed to see opportunities that you are capable of taking and rise to them. So those are my bits of advice for, other people who are navigating similar challenges that I have faced in tech.
Wow, those are true nuggets. Thank you so much, Oge, for sharing them. I think that you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, all the things I really relate to, and I lead group coaching sessions with women, and I really enjoy those. And I always I always spend a lot of times on the mindset, because the mindset is the key to everything.
It is.
When we doubt ourselves, it shows.
Exactly. Because how many times have you been in a conversation and you have an idea and you're, overthinking it and playing it around in your head, and within 30 seconds, somebody else says exactly the same thing? How many times has a question been asked that you know the answer to? And then you're thinking, oh, should I say something? Should I not say something? And then somebody says it, and that's the answer that you had. So you need to believe in yourself, because like I said, opportunities like that come up where you can showcase what you're capable of. But if you don't believe and you're second guessing, then those fleeting moments will pass you by.
For sure. And before we end this incredible conversation, is there anything else you would like to share that maybe I haven't asked?
Um, there is one thing that's been on my mind, and this is because somebody actually asked. So I mentioned earlier that I have kids,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was pregnant, I didn't let anybody on my team know for about 5 months, because I was very afraid that if, my boss or people knew I was pregnant, then they would assume I'm no longer capable of doing my job. And then after I had kids and I came back to work, I also didn't talk about the fact that I was a parent, because I was worried again that, oh my gosh, if I tell people I have triplets and a fourth baby on the way, or of 4 children under 2, they're never going to believe that I'm able to do my job. And when I reflect on that now, that wasn't necessary. I was doing well as a parent and in my career, and I should have celebrated that. I celebrate that now, but I should have. Because the flip side to that is what I call, when I talk about representation, it's constantly I have women who I mentor or coach ask me, can I really have a family and be in tech? Do I have to leave tech to raise a family? And there's so many successful women who have families. So that's another thing is if there is something that's important to you, it is part of who you are. So when I say be you, that includes being a parent, that includes being a carer, that includes, whatever it is that you do outside of work. And don't feel afraid or ashamed. Because if you're in a situation where your value or impact is being questioned, when that doesn't actually affect the work that you do, then you're in the wrong place. Because there are so many places where you can do the same thing, you can have the same positive impact on the organization and still be celebrated for those sides of yourself that are not part of your day job.
Wow, okay. I mean, this is music to my ears, what you just said. And ladies, those who hear us, like this incredible woman, have triplets and a fourth child, very close in age. This is incredible and a successful career. So, absolutely, it is possible. And I have no idea how you hid 5 month pregnancy with triplet, to be honest.
When you're always wearing baggy clothes, people don't see beyond the big t-shirt.
Yeah, I had twins, not triplets, and I was huge. Like I don't know how you,
Oh,
but definitely
I will show you pictures when you're in London.
definitely, and about pictures. I just spoke in front of in a women ERG last week, and I was start with like presenting myself, and I chose to show two pictures of my entire family, like me, my husband, my four kids. I also have four kids, and one when we moved to the US when they're all like toddlers and babies, and one today. And the reason I share that is just that women will see, yes, it's possible to have a family and career, and not just that, like a big family.
Yes.
So you are an inspiration to all women out there. Not only family, it's like triplets and a fourth, like all within 2 years apart. This
Yes.
is incredible.
Yes, and you are an inspiration as well. And we became close because we had, such similar experiences and such same passion about helping women in tech being successful. So thank you, Limo, for what you do as well, for
Thank you.
giving me and other women the platform to come and share our stories and inspire other women.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And before we end for today, I want to ask you, how can people find you, and if there's anything else you would like to share?
Okay, so the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. Lima, if you could add a link to the episode notes. And I wanted to say to people, like, reach out, connect with me. I'm always open to have a conversation. I'm always open to co-create. And, I look forward to, speaking to some of you over the time when the episode comes out.
Definitely, I will do that. Thank you so much, Oge. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you, Lima. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. And this episode with Oge conclude season 2, themed, the color of change. And I'm so grateful for all the incredible women that participated in that season and shared their challenges, being the only woman of color in the room, sharing their wisdom. When I started this season, I haven't dreamt that I will be able to achieve that success and have 30 episodes. But the story doesn't end here, and I already started recording season 3. And for season 3, I'm going to focus on another theme, and it's going to be called Negotiate Like a Woman. So stay tuned for season 3 and for the first episode where I'm going to share my motivation for that season and also some stories with you. And a call out for women in tech who have a thing or two to share about negotiation, about persuasion, about being able to make an impact. I want to hear your voice. So reach out to me if you want to be participating in this season. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day.